Caleb Dorn had lived long enough on the quiet edges of Arizona territory to know that life rarely delivered surprises. And when it did, they were usually the kind a man didn't want. But as he waited at the dusty stagecoach stop that morning, boots polished, hair brushed, and heart pacing like a nervous colt, he allowed himself to believe that for once something good was coming. He had memorized every line of Eliza May's letters, her gentle handwriting, her shy humor, the way she wrote about wanting a life built on trust, warmth and honest work. After years of tending cattle and sleeping alone under wide, empty skies, Caleb believed her arrival could be the start of the life he had always hoped for. When the stagecoach finally appeared, rolling out of the heat shimmer, Caleb felt a strange lightness in his chest. He stepped forward, clutching the small bouquet of wildflowers he had picked before dawn. The driver nodded at him, swung the door open, and Caleb braced himself for the first glimpse of the woman he thought he would marry. But what stepped out was not a woman at all. A massive shadow filled the doorway, blocking out the morning sun. The ground seemed to tremble under heavy footsteps as a towering Apache warrior descended onto the dirt road. Nearly 7 feet tall, broad as a barn door, with copper skin marked by war paint and long black hair tied with strips of leather. He stood silently, his gaze sharp and unreadable. Caleb instinctively shifted, hand brushing the butt of his revolver. Around them, townsfolk scattered into shops, frightened murmurs rising. The warrior's voice cut through the dust-filled air. "You are Caleb Dorn." The deep rumble of it made Caleb's heartbeat hitch. He nodded stiffly, unable to form words. The giant unwrapped the hide bundle in his hands and extended a folded letter. Eliza, May's handwriting unmistakable. Caleb's stomach dropped as he opened it. The message inside was hurried, apologetic, and confusing. Eliza wrote that she could not come, that danger was following her, and that instead she had sent someone she trusted to repay a life debt owed to the Dorn family. The warrior stepped closer, casting a shadow over Caleb. "My name is Coda. My sister sends her regrets. I come in her place to protect you." Caleb stared at him, stunned. A mail-order bride, replaced by a giant Apache warrior. His dreams evaporated into the desert air. "What am I supposed to do with you?" Caleb muttered. Coda's expression did not change. "Live," he said simply, "until the danger finds you." Coda's presence changed everything on the ranch. Caleb tried to pretend life was normal, but it was impossible to ignore. A man who stood like a fountain beside him everywhere he went. If Caleb went to chop wood, Coda stood silently nearby. If Caleb went to check the cattle, Coda followed with steps that made the earth quiver. At night, Caleb lay awake hearing the low hum of Coda's chanting outside. The ancient melodies rising and falling like wind through canyon walls. It was unnerving yet oddly reassuring. Still, the question that haunted Caleb was, what danger had Eliza meant? He got his answer sooner than he wished. One hot evening, while mending a fence near the outer pasture, Caleb felt the air shift, the strange instinct a rancher developed after years alone. Then came the first gunshot, snapping through the quiet like lightning. Caleb dove behind the water trough as bullets kicked up dirt around him. 5 riders thundered toward him, clothes filthy, faces half covered by red bandanas. The Red Mesa Riders, outlaws known for brutality. Caleb had heard stories, but never imagined they'd come for him. He fired one wild shot, hands shaking. The riders laughed, circling like wolves, closing in on a wounded deer. Then a roar exploded from behind him, so loud and raw it rattled Caleb's bones. Coda burst over the hill, charging with terrifying speed despite his massive size. One rider tried to shoot, but Coda swung his forearm like a club, knocking the man clear off his horse. Another aimed his rifle. Coda grabbed the barrel and snapped it like a twig. Caleb watched in stunned disbelief as the warrior fought with an unmatched ferocity, training, instinct, and sheer power blending into something almost inhuman. Bullets grazed Coda's arm and shoulder, but he didn't slow. Caleb snapped out of his shock and fired more accurately now, courage rising at the sight of Coda's fearlessness. Together, man and giant forced the gang to retreat, their horses stumbling in panic as they disappeared into the dust. Breathing hard, Caleb stood, staring at the warrior who now dripped both sweat and blood. Paint-smeared, chest heaving. "You saved my life," Caleb said quietly, still trying to catch his breath. Coda only dipped his head. "The danger follows your land. It follows Eliza, and it will return." That night, under the flickering lantern light, Coda finally spoke the truth. The riders weren't after Eliza alone. They wanted something on Caleb's land, something worth killing for, and the attack was only the beginning. The days after the attack stretched long and restless, each one carrying the heavy feeling that something ugly lurked just beyond sight. Caleb tried to keep the ranch running, feeding the cattle, fixing broken gates, checking the far fences, but every task felt like he was moving through water. Coda remained watchful, always scanning the distant ridges, sleeping little, listening to the sounds of the desert, the way a wolf listens to the night. Caleb wanted answers, real ones, so he pushed Coda for the truth. Only then did Coda explain how he had studied the land, following the rocks and soil the way his people had done for generations. He led Caleb down to the dry creek bed behind the northern pasture and knelt to brush away dust. Beneath it, shimmering faintly in the harsh sunlight, was silver. Not just a few stray flakes, thick veins of it, running through the stone like threads of moonlight. Caleb stared at it, stunned. Silver, under his land the whole time. Suddenly Eliza's innocent letters made terrible sense. She had mentioned pretty sparkling stones she found near the creek, never realizing she was describing untapped wealth. Somehow the Red Mesa riders had learned of it, and now they were determined to take the land, one way or another. Caleb felt the ground tilt under his feet. He had never wanted riches. He only wanted a simple life, someone to share it with. But the riders wanted blood, not silver paperwork. And they proved it the next week when they struck again. They poisoned the well. They set fire to the barn. They left threatening marks carved into the gates. Caleb tried to fight the fear rising in him, but Coda faced the escalating danger with eerie calm, sharpening his spear, painting symbols across his chest, preparing not just for a fight, but for a final stand. That stand came on a moonless night when the riders surrounded the ranch with torches, their shadows stretching like demons across the ground. Caleb's hands shook as he loaded his rifle, but when he saw Coda step forward unflinching, enormous against the firelight, something inside him steadied. The battle that followed was chaos, gunfire, flames, horses screaming, Coda moving with brutal precision while Caleb fought beside him with a courage he didn't know he owned. When the dust settled and the last rider fell or fled, the ranch lay scorched but safe. Caleb sagged against a beam, exhausted. "Debt paid?" he asked hoarsely. Coda looked at him for a long moment before answering. "No, debt changed. Now we are brothers." Before Caleb could respond, a soft sound drifted from the road, the slow creak of wagon wheels, the gentle jingle of harness bells. Caleb turned, heart rising into his throat as a familiar voice called his name. Eliza May, alive and trembling, stepped into the glow of the dying fire, her eyes widening when she saw the giant, Apache standing beside him. The story, it seemed, was not ending tonight. It was just beginning.